What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. Machine Gun Kelly is still a rapper at heart, but his third album, titled Bloom, is definitely more catered towards the pop sound that he's been developing over the years. When you think about it, it's not a bad transition because otherwise, would he be releasing albums or would he ultimately sit on the shelf until he's dropped from Bad Boy / Interscope? So you can't be mad at him for switching it up. He still raps from time to time, and that satisfies people. But I think he does well with what he's, trying to accomplish. Basically, a lot of rappers can't successfully jump into that pop rap lane that MGK is in and utilize it the same way. He's hitting the charts. He's selling records. He's touring across the country. And he's still very much a big name. He might not be big among like hip hop circles where they're talking about all the biggest artists, but he has his core audience and they love what he does because clearly he's still able to do what he does. Now let me talk about my favorite song, starting off with The Gunner. If anybody is looking solely for rapping MGK, he makes a grand appearance on Bloom's opening track. This is a song where he talks about various subjects. They're all kind of little subjects that add up to who he is. So in some ways it's like an introduction. Like if somebody were to just pick up this album and they didn't know who MGK was, they'll get a bit of a glimpse just with this one song. He talks about how his walk and his swagger is so cocky and confident that he could just walk into the club and not get ID'd or patted down. He talks about like his early days where he had to sell grams in order to go on tour. Like those days where he was trying to rent like the little small tour buses. And so there's a lot on this song, and I think it's a really strong opener. The only thing that I had like as a point of criticism was the hook really doesn't add too much. Maybe, just maybe, it would sound better like in a live performance, like the crowd chanting it back to him and he's just up there going crazy. But I think on the song, it's like one of the points that just doesn't do much for me. The second pick on my favorites list is always the toughest. Because there's, on a good album such as Bloom, there's a lot of different songs that you can pick and choose from. Ultimately, I went with Let You Go because that was one that tended to get stuck in my head the most. I would walk away from listening to the music and eventually start humming that melody to it. So I picked that one, and once I decided on that, I kind of really started to connect with the concept of using drugs as a metaphor for this failed relationship. No idea is original, of course, but I think Kells makes it work really nicely. Plus, that's him playing the guitar on the song, and I thought that was just like a cool little fact to throw out there for anybody that didn't know that. Now let me talk about two honorable mentions on my list. Bad Things featuring Camila Cabello. This was one of the songs that was released last fall, and I believe it hit like the number 60 or so on the Billboard charts. And it does sound like something that could have been a bigger hit. And I think that's why I like it. This Camila chick is just amazing. Her voice is very seductive in the words that she's saying. And then MGK does his thing as well. The other song is 27. This is the last song on the album, and it's also another introspective one. I think those are the songs on the album that I really enjoyed the most, and I'm glad that he ended it like this, especially playing up to like the idea that a lot of creative artists and entertainers and stuff, like they commit suicide or die at 27, but that's not what MGK is hoping for. He's hoping to overdose on creativity. That's what the song essentially is about. Now let me talk about my least favorite songs, Wait plus Bake. I like the sample on that. The high-pitched I Get High that's in the background, I like that. And the beat is really good too. However, I don't like much else about the song. Maybe it's the lack of being a smoker or something, but I just feel like he wasted this beat. It's also played up to the idea that, like, how do you make a weed song sound fresh? So many people have done the wake and bake concept. They've done smoking songs in general. And so it's hard to do something that sounds different, that sounds unique with a subject matter like that. And there's plenty of subjects like that in hip hop. And I just think that this one really wasn't executed well. The other song that I really wasn't feeling too much was Trap Paris featuring QUAVO and Ty Dolla $ign. Now, I might be alone on this. A lot of people might like this song. I'm not saying that it is necessarily a bad song, but it really doesn't fit the idea of what Bloom is. It doesn't fit. It's like a trap song, but it's the only trap song on the album, and everything else is more catered towards like that pop lane. I think also whenever you have something in abundance, it's no longer special. So QUAVO and Ty Dolla $ign, they're on new features, new guest features like every other week, if not every week. Feels like we've been seeing featuring QUAVO so many times. And I know this song was released a while ago, but it just doesn't feel like a record that's very unique or special to me. It doesn't give me anything that makes it feel like it should be on the album. I think if MGK were to release a mixtape either before this album or after, obviously he can't do it before, but if he were to have done that, then I could see Trap Paris being on that, like a more rapping themed mixtape, but it just doesn't fit the overall vibe of Bloom. Bloom is way more than just a title. A flower doesn't spring up overnight and just look pretty. It's a process. And so when I listened to MGK's album, I felt like I was getting that same experience. The more I let it simmer and sit and listen to it, the more I felt like I was finally getting to see the beautiful flower that is this album. Once I began to really unravel his words and appreciate the content, that's when the album really started to come alive for me. I would say that there are some songs on here that I would get rid of, the two that I had talked about, and then really any songs on the album that didn't feel personal. I feel like this was a very personal album, but there's some songs on here that's like, okay, this one definitely doesn't need to be on here, in my opinion. But otherwise, this was a satisfying body of work. It was one where I wasn't necessarily expecting to like it as much as I ended up liking it. I think that goes to the pop sound. Obviously, when you make pop music, it gets catchy. It stays in your head. And so you have to give kudos to MGK for that. So those are my thoughts on MGK's Bloom, his third album. After you listen to it, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter at @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.